Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Can you all hear me in the back?
Yes.
I'm sorry we don't have a microphone. About 18 months ago, I received a phone call from a young woman who asked if I would be willing to open an art exhibition for her. I said, sure. It's my practice to always say yes to every question I'm asked. So I said, sure, whenever it's on, let me know, and I'll fly up to, I didn't even know where Broad Beach was, but I'll fly up there and I'll do that for you. What I didn't realize was that in the same week, I would be delivering a speech in the Parliament in The Hague. So it's been a long journey. It's been 32 hours on a plane, and we arrived last night. A promise is a promise. So here we are. King Lear, late at night on the cliffs, asks the blind Earl of Gloucester, "How do you see the world?" And the blind man Gloucester replies, "I see it feelingly." And shouldn't we all? Brendan Kelly, in his great book called The Book of Judas, said, "If you want to serve your age, betray it." But what does that mean, to betray your age? It means expose its lies, humiliate its conceits, debunk its arrogance, demolish its certainties, expose its secrets, and condemn them to face harsher truths. Great art changes you. Look around you. It rearranges the furniture of your mind. It cuts, it cures, and sometimes terrifies. But it is truth laid bare by brush strokes. What Joe does has a quality to it. These are subversive acts accomplished by poets, artists, and writers, people like Joe, particularly today in this environment where we are now entering the new dark ages. Hitler, in 1941, sent one of his officials to Paris to enlist Pablo Picasso in the Nazi cause. And in Picasso's apartment, he saw the painting Guernica. I don't know if anyone here has ever seen it, depicting the hideous bombing and torture of the Basque village by the Germans. The German official, trying to flatter the artist, said, "This is wonderful. Did you do it?" And Picasso replied, "No, you did." Look around you. Joe didn't do these pictures. We did. Human beings. We did it. But it was her brush that brought them to life. Now, Rudyard Kipling wrote of young men dying in World War I, and if they ask you why we died, tell them that our fathers lied. That legacy, that litany of lies continues today. You see, the world is crying out for only two things: leadership and the truth. Tonight, I'm simply going to tell you the truth. The wise Chinese have a term for it, zhengjiao. Listen to the friend who tells you the truth, even when it hurts. So let's just tell the truth, fearlessly and forcefully. That is what the Sanskrit word satyagraha means, the truth force. And that one word delivered freedom to India from the shackles of British rule. As Alvin Toffler said, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. This is the journey that Joe has set us all on. Now, I have long admired Count Moltke, the famous Prussian general, a soldier who preferred to think rather than to speak, a man silent in 7 languages. You see, it takes courage to stand up here and speak. It also takes courage to sit down and listen. So what made me decide to leave the world of lobsters and Learjets and exchange it for shelters and slaughterhouses? To take nothing but pictures, own nothing but memories, leave nothing but footprints, kill nothing but time. You see, something happened to me. I heard the screams of my dying father as his body was ravaged by the cancers that killed him. And I realized I'd heard those screams before. In the slaughterhouse, on the cattle ships to the Middle East, and a dying mother wail as a Japanese harpoon explodes in her brain as she calls out to her calf. Their cries were the cries of my father. And I discovered that when we suffer as equals. And in their capacity to suffer, a dog is a pig, is a bear, is a boy. So tonight, as I look out into your faces, I recall the words of the Greek poet Horace. Change only the name, and my story is also about you. In human history, only 100 billion human beings have ever lived. There are only 7 billion human beings alive today, and yet we torture and kill 2 billion sentient, living, loving animals every week. That's 2 billion every week. And we stab and suffocate 1 billion ocean animals every 3 hours. Trillions of fish are ground up into pellets to feed to livestock. Vegetarian cows are now the world's largest ocean predators. The oceans are dying in our time. By 2048, all our fisheries will be dead. The lungs and the arteries of the earth. Oceans sequester more CO2 than all the forests of the world put together. On this basis, no child under the age of 5 will ever reach retirement age. It is a mathematical impossibility, if that does not chill your blood. 10,000 entire species are wiped out every year because of the actions of one species. And we are killing species before we have even met them. And we now face the 6th mass extinction in cosmological history. If any other organism did this, a biologist would call it a bloody virus. It is a crime of unimaginable proportions. Now, I should tell you that on this planet there are 2 peak predators: human beings on land and orcas in the oceans. In the 20th century, human beings have killed 200 million members of their own species. Orcas killed none. And don't expect any protection from your elected governments. In the 20th century, 100 million human beings have been killed by their own governments. So what does that tell you about us? Edmund Burke, the great statesman and philosopher, wrote, "For evil to prevail, all it takes is for good people to do nothing." Well, let me tell you, doing nothing is no longer an option. I've traveled a long way, 32 hours, and I'm kind of jet lagged, but I've come here with very simple messages. Please, please, take what I say seriously. Victor Hugo said that there is nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. Well, let me tell you now that this is a new idea. Animal rights is now the greatest social justice issue since the abolition of slavery. And it is not just about animal rights. It is also about human wrongs. It is a revolutionary event more powerful than the Industrial Revolution, the Hubble telescope, or anything ever conceived by Galileo, Copernicus, Einstein, Darwin, or Freud. Because it protects the most precious of all things, life. People like us in this room are on the right side of history. Now, happily, the world is changing. 10 years ago, Twitter was a bird sound. www was a stuck keyboard. Cloud was in the sky. Skype was a typo. 3G was a parking space. Google was a baby's burp. And Al-Qaeda was my plumber. Now, the most beautiful word ever written in any country at any time in human history came from India, from the Upanishads 3,000 years ago. Ahimsa, non-violence to any living being. It means non-violence in what we say, what we do, and what we think. It is elegant, empowering, and enduring. Not because it describes our nationality, our politics, our religions, our diet, or our lifestyle, but because it describes our character. Our character. It says we oppose violence in everything we do. Now, the great anthropologist Margaret Mead said that never doubt that a small group of individuals can change the world. Indeed, that is the only thing that ever has. Well, there are only 13 million Jews in the world, and yet they play such a vibrant, exciting, wonderful role in international affairs. Look at the number of Nobel Prizes that they win. Trix and I were at the Olympic Games a few years ago, and we were thrilled when Australia won more medals than every country in the world, except for Russia and the United States. And we had a population of only 20 million people. Tibet's population is only 3 million. But who hasn't heard of the plight of the Tibetan? But there are over 600 million vegetarians in the world, and that is bigger than the United States, England, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Canada, Holland, New Zealand, all put together. If they were one nation, they would be bigger than the 27 nations of the European Union. And despite this massive demographic footprint, they are still drowned out by the raucous hunt and shoot and kill and cretins who believe that violence is the answer when it should not even be a bloody question. But we live in a world of media sound bites. It reminds me of Hannah Arendt's book, Eichmann in Jerusalem, where she coins the term, the banality of evil. This is how a deceitful mainstream journalist at the Australian of the Year Awards in Canberra twisted my innocent words. Mr. Uolън, I'm surprised a man of your standing would say that. Meat is murder. A little old lady with a budgerigar is offending God. Livestock production is unethical. There will be no peace until we stop killing animals. Industry is unattractive, and animals are like human children. Can't you see how offensive that is to our rural audience? Well, this was my diplomatic counterpunch. Well, you've certainly bludgeoned the English language to death, but if you're going to quote me, you might want to try doing it honestly. I did say, a robin redbreast in a cage puts all heaven in a rage. But that came from William Blake in Auguries of Innocence. And by the way, it was the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who said, a sparrow does not fall from the sky without Allah knowing. And yes, I did say, the commandment, thou shalt not kill, applies to the murder of any living being. It was inscribed on the human breast long before it was ever proclaimed from Mount Sinai. But actually, that was Leo Tolstoy, not me. And I did say, the roots of cruelty are not strong, just widespread. But a time will come when inhumanity, protected by custom, will succumb to humanity championed by thought. A man is ethical only and only when all life is sacred to him. But actually that was Albert Schweitzer, winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. And yes, I admit I did say, as long as we kill animals, there will never be peace. It's only a small step to the concentration camps of Hitler and Stalin. There will be no justice as long as man will stand with a knife and destroy those who are weaker than him. But that was Isaac Singer, a Nobel Prize winner in literature. And yes, I admit I did have something to say about animals and children. The wolf will lie down with the lamb, the leopard with the young goat, the young lion with the young ones of the herd, and a little child will lead them. But that came from the prophet Isaiah. And no, I didn't say a thing about greed and ambition. That wasn't me, that was Jesus. Blame him. Behold the birds of the air and the lilies of the field. King Solomon, in all his glory, was not arrayed as one of these. And for good measure, he threw in a left hook and an uppercut. Whatever you do to the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me. So are you, as a journalist, suggesting that your so-called rural audience is offended by Nobel Prize winners and the prophets? Or should I just go home and burn my books? I seem to recall that was a strategy favored by Pol Pot. Well, the journalist was speechless, and he attacked me the next day for being a radical. Ladies and gentlemen, we need another radical Copernicus and Galileo to remind us that we are not the center of the universe. Animals are not just other species, they are other nations, and we murder them at our own moral peril. I recently addressed the world's Parliament of Religions, and I told them that the peace map is drawn on a menu. Peace is not just the absence of war, it is the presence of justice. Justice must be blind to race, color, religion, and to species. If it is not blind, it will be used as a weapon of terror. And tonight there is unimaginable terror in those ghastly gulags, those Guantanamos we call factory farms. So talking about peace whilst killing animals is like loving literature and burning books. They are mutually exclusive ideas. So in my personal journey through the heart of darkness, like Joseph Conrad in the Belgian Congo, I've learned some truths. A man is measured not by how much money he makes, but how much of it he is willing to give away, particularly to strangers. And my heart resonates to the words of W.H. Auden. If equal affection cannot be, let the more loving one be me. I did not find my character on Wall Street, because it lives on the road to Damascus. I hope at some stage, because I know I've got very limited time to speak to you, I really hope that you will do something tangible in the future to change the way we live. If you came here tonight and had a nice evening, and you bought a painting, and you changed your ways in some small way, that would be great. But it won't be enough. In the West, the average person kills or is responsible for killing over 4,000 animals in their lifetime. We don't just want you to change your ways and what you eat and wear and think. We actually need you to become activists. Be active, be strong. We need you greatly. The last words of the great Gatsby read, "So we beat on, boats against the tide, drawn back ceaselessly into the past." I ask you, are we to live forever in a sick, smug, and cruel past? Let's not relive history. Let's make history, because that is what leaders do. They make history. The brutes and the bullies have been Goliath, but David is coming. Maybe he's in this room. Maybe He is one of you. And if not you, who? And if not now, when? Thank you all for being here.